Welcome everyone to a new episode of Growth with Tacos at our new time. This is Pierce, and joining us today are John Marco and special guest, my dear friend Zach. Hometown boy in Rochester. So, Zach, we invited you on the show, as you know, because all the events been going on lately. Most people that tend to be part of this show tend to be more Democrat, or at least have supported Democratic candidates in the past if they're moderates or you name it. And I realized we really were completely lacking a certain perspective. And it's a perspective that's very, very common in the country as a whole. You are a Trump supporting Republican, and you're also a dear friend of mine. I respect you entirely as a person. I don't think that those two things have to be in conflict in the slightest, right?
Exactly.
But you have that valuable perspective, and it's a valuable perspective that hasn't been on this show yet. So that is why I invited you to be here, and thank you for doing it. It's also, of course, not the only thing about you or your identity. So please feel free to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zach. I'm a good friend of Pierce's, as he said. I am a Trump-supporting Republican, but I am not a Nazi, as to what the media has been telling people this day. I don't understand where that concept came from. But aside from that, known Pierce for a while, and I'm the kind of person to where I don't let politics dictate my friendships. If you are a good person in your own right and your own ideas, I will respect you. But if you are an asshole to people, or just have a terrible personality, or just, in lack of a better terms, a jerk, I would use a different word, but I'll try not to swear as much. I just want to be a little polite, but, that's how I judge people. But in this day and age, I think politics has become more enveloping in people's lives than what it should be. It's detracted from just, saying, I have this viewpoint, as to where, you are with me or you're against me. And that's
Right.
kind of where politics has diluted itself to in our society in this day and age. I'm more of the kind of person to where, I just want to have, person A and person B sit down and have a conversation with each other and debate their side and just, talk it out, instead of this chair fighting WWE sessions that we get every day in Congress, where it's like,
Right.
it's like that meme that you see on the internet, oh my God, what is it? Oh, it's Bernie Sanders with a steel chair, or some like that, just walking out of left field. But that's what I think politics is slowly becoming. And it's also becoming the name calling stuff that you see on a school playground. That's the best way I can put it. It's no longer the service of the people. It's the service of those in power. And that's kind of my whole reason why I saw Trump as somebody that I wanted to vote for, because he was a candidate. Look, love or hate the guy after the last 4 years in office, throw away everything that the media has told you on both sides of the aisle so we can be neutral here. The man had literally everything. And I mean everything any person in this world could want. Money, fame, branding, wealth. I say money, but wealth and money are two different things, because you can have money, but if you don't have wealth, that money doesn't last forever. He had it all, dude. It was unbelievable. The man did not need to do what he did. He could have just said, I don't want to be president. I don't need to be president. I have all of this in my life. What does it matter to me? And he came forward and said, I'm sick and tired of the do-nothing politicians, because that's what Washington really has become. If you even see it, even today, I didn't watch his inauguration because I was working today, but I saw just now, I was reading on Yahoo News, Joe Biden just signed in 13 executive orders that just undid the last 4 years of Trump, or essentially what it's trying to do. And that's happened so many times before with other presidential candidates, or at least any form of Congress, whether it be the House or the Senate. They always try to undo what the last guy did because they're on the opposite side of them. And that's not really a service to the people, because not everybody in this country votes one way. Not everybody in this country is a Democrat, and not everybody in this country is a Republican. That's where the whole dilution of politics has gone to. It's our side better than your side, regardless of anything. And now it's kind of, we're in this back and forth tug of war game every 4 years where one party gets control or takes over a current branch of Congress or the presidency, and it's just this back and forth, and it just seems hopeless. And when I saw Trump, I saw a man who could not be bought by lobbyists. He could not be bribed because he had everything that you could want, and he was a realist. He told it like it is. He may have said some stupid things, but he spoke like for real. Like he kept it for real, like telling you how it really is, not just muddying up the waters like all politicians do and just giving you the scraps or wording things like with such vocabulary that not the average human being can understand, or they just look at it like, wow, those are big words. Oh my God, important stuff. Like, no, that's why I voted for him.
So we have completely diverging opinions on Donald Trump, right? Like everything that you just said, I feel like it makes sense to see that you got there. Like I feel like I see the evidence of how you got to those conclusions, and it's just at the same time not the conclusion that I got to, like even in the slightest, like not nowhere remotely close to it, right?
Are you speaking in terms of his actual end of his 4 years or at the beginning of his presidency?
I would say the entirety of the presidency.
Okay.
I think that Trump has stayed the same person for the entirety of that presidency.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. He talked it like it is. He was not a politician.
He was most certainly not a politician. Yeah. And for what it's worth, I don't think like a politician is exactly what we needed, right? So, I am not an establishment kind of guy, right? So I agree with you that look, we don't even particularly want another politician for politician's sake, because I agree with you. DC has been terrible at getting stuff done, and it's often been my party versus your party, my party versus your party, and who loses for that? The American people loses.
Exactly, because it's been that way for a very long time, and I think that's why a lot of people came out for Donald Trump in 2016, because they saw with Hillary Clinton the same thing that every other politician has sold them. Sorry, I have my camera set up over here, but my screen's over here. So for the viewers at home, like I'm not insane. I'm just looking at my screen. My camera's set up over here. It doesn't sit up on top of my computer, but I apologize. But that's what people saw in him. They saw somebody different, completely brand new person, not a politician. So I think that's why he actually won in 2016. To be honest, for the longest time, I really thought that in the back of my mind, my vote really doesn't matter because, it's the government. They're cheating all the time. Whoever they want to get in will get in. But then when I saw on election night of 2016, I was like, oh my God, Trump actually won. The vote actually does mean something, because if it didn't, Hillary would have won. That's the way I look at it. But we could talk about the 2020 election and probably some, topics later. But still, my view on that changed in 2016, and I was like, oh my God, it actually does mean something. But
sure. Still, the statements that you provided, I think a lot of people on the other side, I'll say, aren't used to hearing that. I think that they feel like there's completely different reasoning, and to actually just hear someone say it up front, my perception at least is that like a lot of people just don't even get to hear that. I don't know. What do you think, Gianmarco?
No, I absolutely agree in that regard, because you and I can both talk from literally firsthand experience, or at least myself coming from more on the left. My time in Nevada and then Iowa only reaffirmed my belief that the supporters of the other side at the left that is presented is a very, very small, in my opinion, cherry-picked minority. And it's a lot easier for people to just take that and go down to their primal instincts and be like, man, this person's a horrible person. Like, you must be a horrible person for supporting that person, and not give anyone the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. And what I tell people is that you would be amazingly surprised if you come into a conversation like bringing an olive branch instead of what you both thought was going to be a gunfight. Like, if you just, as you said, and I appreciate that tremendously, like if you come in there with an open mind, empathy first and foremost, sit down and try to understand them, that will bring you a very long way. But
I
it's
agree.
really disheartening to me personally, as someone that voted for Biden in 20 and Clinton in 16 for a variety of reasons, that I see a lot of people on the left, especially today leading up to the inauguration, exuding a lot of relief and with a huge negative undertone that Trump's presidency is over. And all I could do was just stop and think. I'm like, man, now you guys really feel like what a lot of Republicans felt when Obama was on the way out.
Mhm.
And there is, I really hope that, and I posted on Facebook today, like I just hope that everyone that just really resented Trump, that voted for Biden this time, really hold Biden to the same standards they did, because party affiliation should not matter with your elected officials. It shouldn't really, especially matter if you voted for them. But like, I've done a lot of hot takes online recently that I can get some flack from some friends next time I see them. But I told them straight up on a respectful thread the other day on Facebook. It's just like, well, so if you're saying that I voted for Trump, that means I support the winning in Capitol, what happened in Capitol Hill. But on the flip side, I can see a Republican saying like, "Oh, you voted for Obama." It's like, so you're supporting killing innocent civilians in drone strikes? Like, there's negative aspects to every presidency and
Yep.
administration. And sure, I can understand how some of my comparisons can be a bit of a stretch, but it's the point I'm trying to make is that you can't turn a blind eye when someone's on your team. Like, that is first and foremost very negative to our democracy, and you're not helping make it better by just
Exactly.
attacking other people.
And I think what you said, John Marco, is that when people like say, "Oh, I supported this candidate," oh, so you must be for this. Like that's the delusion of what politics is becoming, as far as like how we're divided. Because
Yeah.
like everybody picks out the negatives in the person and then says, "If you voted for this person, oh, you must support this." And again, I'm gonna say this, and I'm just gonna say this about the Capitol. I disagree with what happened on that day, but in an essence, I agree with it. Let me explain. I do not think raiding our Capitol building in an attempt to like it was essentially an insurrection because they were trying to certify the electoral college vote for an incoming president. Regardless if I agree with the man being president or not, it doesn't change the fact of how our legislative process works. Still to this day, I believe that there is some strong evidence that there could have potentially have been fraud. I can't say for certain like there was fraud, because until it is proven in court and evidence has been presented to prove such of a case, you cannot say it well there was a definite. You can assume and say there is suspicion and evidence to present the idea that fraud could have occurred. Now, that's something we can get into later. But back to my original point. For 2020 was a hell of a year. It was honest to God a hell of a year. We could throw away all the conspiracy theory hats aside. We were essentially thrown into a lockdown for 2 months and then slowly opened back up. Some states stayed locked down. Some states opened up a bit, put back down. So we were all cooped up in our houses. Now, if we're going to call what happened on Capitol Hill a riot, an attack on our government buildings, can we please look at what happened over the summer with some of the Black Lives Matter protests that burned down cities? Like, I'm not kidding. There were videos of cities being burned down, like Minneapolis, or excuse me, Minneapolis is where this George Floyd occurred. I'm so sorry. My brain has lost a lot of track. I'm trying to.
I believe so, yes. And
Yeah.
the Target in particular was famous for being burnt down.
Yes, and that half of that city was burnt to the effing ground. There were federal buildings that were being vandalized. For God's sake, Seattle supposedly had annexed the chop zone, annexed like 6 blocks of downtown Seattle for their own self. Like, if we're going to call a ball and a strike, we need to look at both sides and say they're both wrong. Because if you say one side is wrong, but this side is right because this agrees with our political views, then that's wrong. That's the part where I somewhat agree with what happened. Because if they're going to call that quickly a riot, an insurrection, it was so bad, let's send all the FBI after these people and arrest them. By the way, if anybody on that video feed from raiding the Capitol was stupid enough to sit there and wave while they're walking out with Nancy Pelosi's lectern, you're stupid and you should go to jail because you're just dumb for doing that. I mean, for God's sakes, like you're an idiot. You're staring at the camera like, "Hi, arrest me." But anywho, if we're gonna look at one side being right and one side being wrong, that's where people are gonna get pissed off, and that's why what happened on the 6th occurred, because people felt that the system wasn't working. It was only working for whomever the political leaders sided with, and that is the whole mentality of my way or the highway. Your way means nothing to me, and if you're not with us, you're against us. So that's where I saw the Capitol as like, okay, this is the right coming out saying we're tired of the system always attacking us. And then it backfired. Now the FBI is after all of these people. They're throwing, 20-year prison sentences plus on some of these people. Where are the prison sentences for all of the people that ran over police officers, killed cops, and destroyed federal property over the summer? Like, do not get me wrong. What happened to George Floyd was a terrible thing, and I still to this day cannot believe that not only one officer, 3 other officers sat by and watched what happened and did not have any sense of morale or moral compass to go, this is wrong. Why am I watching this happen? I need to do something about this. To this day, I still shocked that happened. And it was a terrible thing. And yes, there should be justice. But do I agree with burning down half of a fucking city and destroying multiple others, annexing a zone in Seattle, Washington, and running over police officers and calling officers pigs, bigots, and all this is going to do anything? Like, no, it's not. It's not going to do a damn thing. If you want to solve the problem, sit down and figure out the root cause of the issues. And
what is the root cause?
Wait, just real quick, Zach, bring up a lot of fantastic points. I'll be back in literally 15 seconds. I gotta do something real quick.
No problem. Would you like me to wait? Would you like me to wait, Pierce, for him to return?
He said no, so I'll respect his wishes. So what do you think is the root cause?
The root cause is that there are simply just bad apples in the system, bad police training, de-escalation of issues. The fix, then? Honestly, it would be more of just people sitting down, reviewing protocols, understanding how they need to react in certain situations, and things would change, because there was body camera footage released from the George Floyd incident. And in that video, I'm not saying anything that happened in that video justifies what the officer did, but you could obviously tell George Floyd was like heavy breathing. He was not acting normal. He was hyperventilating. It looked like he was on some form of drug. And the first instinct that a police officer should do is assess that person and just determine if this person is suffering from a potential overdose. I'm not saying he did have it, but when I'm a police officer and I come up to a person hyperventilating, not acting like responding normally, my first instinct is going to be this person has either ingested something or they are anxiety ridden for some reason. The first thing I'm going to do is make sure that the person is okay. I'm not going to assume that they're anxiety ridden and make them feel like they did something wrong. I'm going to be like, sir, are you okay? You do not seem normal. Do you need medical help? Like, we're here to help you. And in that video, they actually did that. The officer actually did that. He offered, like, we'll make sure you're comfortable. We'll open up the windows for you, because he was saying he couldn't breathe before he was on the ground. And they were doing the best that they could. And then all of a sudden, he ended up on the ground. I don't remember, because it's been a while since I've watched that footage. So you can you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know what happened to occur to have George Floyd on the ground, but that was wrong. What that officer did was terrible, and he should be punished for it. Do I feel like every single cop in this country needs to be villainized now because of that situation? Absolutely not. Do I think we need to burn down federal buildings to send a message? Absolutely not. Do I think we need to protest to send a message? Sure, of course. Protest peacefully. That's all you want. That's all you should do. And they wanted to look at the Capitol riot as, President Trump incited violence. Chris Cuomo on CNN said in the first week of the George Floyd protests, since when does protesting have to be peaceful? When in the Constitution, the First Amendment states you have the right to peacefully assemble. Is that not inciting violence? Like that is what he said on national television was an incitement of violence. Like when does protesting have to be peaceful? So that was pretty much saying that, oh, it's okay to go out and burn down buildings, destroy communities, hurt people because your message is politically correct in the States.
So if I can have a word in here. So an incredibly common theme I'm noticing so far in your stories are that you feel like there is a standard that is being unequally applied in terms of public presentation, like media, right? You know, that there's a standard that is being unfairly applied by the media. And also, I'm noticing a undercurrent of treating people like individuals. So whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, everybody's an individual. So that individualism, a lot of people think is at odds with like collectivism and answers. So like if there's a societal problem, such as like Black people are not able to, I don't even know how I was going to say this sentence, to say that Black people are disadvantaged or underprivileged compared to white people or whatever, you know, like your attitude doesn't seem to think that that requires a societal response. Am I correct? Because as an example, you said like the police problem is just individually bad apples, right? So what's your, first off, I agree with you. I maybe I shouldn't be, but I do agree with you that the media does have a overall leftist lean and that conservative ideas are not fairly presented. And I would like to say a bunch of reasons why I think that's the case, but I do agree with you on that. But I would like to also get into your mind here on like what else should be done. You brought up Black Lives Matter a bit. So on that topic, like what else should be done? Because it wasn't just about a few bad apples of police doing things. The movement purpose behind it was more than just police brutality. It was about the overall plight of how basically it's tougher being Black in America than being white.
To be honest with you, I have not seen any form of racism from anybody in my near vicinity of people that I associate with. I have not once ever seen or come across a racist action in my life towards an individual. That is not to say or disprove the claim that it doesn't exist, because there are racists in the world. There are people who are racist against others. And in general, that's wrong. You should not treat people that way. I was brought up on this mentality. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Do I want to treat somebody like a piece of shit and then somebody treat me like a piece of shit? No, that's not right. Now, going back to your situation of like, is it difficult to be Black in this country? To be honest, I really can't answer that question because I am not a Black person. I can't really say that it's, difficult being Black or it's not difficult being Black because I have to be in that person's shoes per se in order to actually say something like that. So I really can't answer the question, and that's being respectful because I can't tell you a true and honest answer. I can say it's not, but then this person who is Black can say, I have experienced racial injustice in my life. Can I sit there and disprove him? No, I cannot. It's his life. It's what he's experienced. So in order for me to actually answer that, I myself have to be in a Black person's shoes, and I'm not. That's what I can say to that. I don't know if I'm really answering your question right, but if we want to go about to the root of the problems, like, I'm going to be honest, man, like, how do I put this? Give me a minute to think about that because I want to put it right. I don't want to say anything that might come off wrong initially. I want to make sure that my words. Let me think. Oh, actually, all right. So when the Jim Crow era ended and we had the laws put into place, mind you that all 22 or 26 Democratic senators opposed that bill that was passed. So that's another thing we can talk about, but where was I going? They imposed laws into the system to where they tried to destroy the nuclear family, to where the government would give you checks as if you were like a single mother. And in the Black community, it's proven, it's science. There's statistics out there. There are less fathers in the Black community than in other communities. Why is that? I'm not saying it has anything to do with the laws, but when you have family structure, your children are raised with morals, values, and ideas. And it stop me at any point if this is coming off the wrong way. I don't want it to, because I'm not trying to sound like an asshole to people, but it's just what I'm seeing. I watch crime shows. I watch Live PD, but that's been taken off the air. I watch The First 48. A lot of murders are happening in these gang-ridden communities, and I think the problem is that these gang communities are preying on Black communities, and it's destroying them. These children are growing up potentially in not strong families or in a very difficult environment, and there's no opportunity for them. There's no opportunity to escape. The schooling system for people sucks, which is why when Trump posed the idea of free school choice, to where if you lived in one zip code, you can send your child to a different zip code for better schooling if your school's zip code or your zip code school was not up to your standards as a parent as to where you wanted to send your child. I was like, that's great. That's great. And then the teachers unions opposed it. But anyhow,
It's interesting to bring that up. I wasn't aware of that bit about Trump supporting such a measure because I've been recently studying up on civics because it's good to be aware of how things work. Because for those that aren't aware, schooling, the quality of schooling is essentially tied to how affluent or not affluent your neighborhood is. A lot of school funding comes from property values, exactly. But so if you live in a less valuable neighborhood, your schooling doesn't have as much funding as one with a higher income, simply put. So, in that regard, I think that is actually a good idea. And I'm surprised that the teachers union would be opposed to something like that, where it creates more opportunities for the very people they're trying to elevate.
Because a lot of teachers unions, the individuals in them would lose their jobs. Because if that law actually got passed through, a lot of these schools in these lower income communities, or in these, I should say, not very well funded communities because of, legislation. Let's be real here. We don't decide where our tax dollars go. It's what our elected leaders do. A lot of these people would have lost their jobs because a lot of families would see like, oh, I could send my kid to a better school. Sign me right up. I am not hesitating. Son, daughter, you're going to a better school. And their zip code, whatever school they reside in for whatever zip code they would have less students, in which case, less students leads to less need of teachers, funding cuts, because, we all pay, like whenever you go to school, your taxes dollars pay for that. And if no one's attending that school or very little, they're going to have to make cuts. You know what I mean? That's why they opposed it, which is pretty selfish of them, but that's besides the point. My whole essence is this: you need to have strong communities. Okay. A lot of crime happens in low income communities and in cities. What I'm not saying demographically that's where all Black people reside, because that's not true at all. Okay. What I'm saying is that where the crime comes, we fix the problems. Does this pertain to George Floyd at all? No. What happened with him was a direct, terrible incident and bad police officer actions. That person has nothing. That incident has nothing to do with what I'm saying. I'm just saying that we need to help fix the community problems that we have, and we need to look at police as individuals who sign up to protect and serve. Because not every cop. Let me put it this way: not every person goes to the police academy to say, "I want to be a cop so I can be a dick to people." No, they want to serve and protect their communities because they see pain and hardship, and they want to make a difference. In some parts of the world, there probably is some guy or girl who's like, I want to sign up to be a cop, to be a dick to people. But, in general, that's not how police officers seek their jobs. And if you look at a lot of things that have happened since the Black Lives Matter protests, where have a lot of, gang-related shootings have increased? A lot of low-income Black communities. So the Black community is suffering from lack of police. I mean, for God's sakes, a 1-year-old child was shot in the stomach in New York City during a cookout with the family. A 1-year-old black child was shot in the stomach. For God's sakes, that kid didn't even live to be more than a year old before he died. And the cause of it was a drive-by shooting. I mean, if you don't fix the problems in your community, you're not going to fix the altercations with police. Because wherever there's crime, police have to be, and that's more altercations. I want to help. I want to have a viewpoint that helps strengthen communities, helps fix the problems, and that's what President Trump tried to do with his plan of Operation Legend, named after it was a kid that was killed, a black kid whose name was Legend that was killed, and he wanted better school choicing, opportunity zones instilled in these communities, so that way people in that area could help start up businesses. They would be given money from the government to do so, to help build a stronger community. And he wanted to put more funding into the police department, not just to give them all the stuff that they wanted, but, to properly train, properly vet some people, so that way you don't get bad apples in the system. Give them the training, like I said before, and all the equipment they need to help protect and serve. And all the equipment does not mean they get all the guns and all the ammo. No, equipment's like cameras, vehicles, body armor. Because let's face it, there's criminals out there that have guns and they will shoot people. So they need to be protected too. And a lot of that money also goes to proper training to help understand and to address an issue, proper de-escalation tactics, proper non-lethal takedown tactics to help reduce these incidents to where it's non-lethal force is used. And that's why I voted for Trump. And I wanted somebody like him to help these communities in this way, looking at the real root cause of the problems. The communities are falling apart. Why? Let's give the kids better schooling. Let's open up opportunity zones so that way these communities can grow and thrive, not wither and die like they have been under Democratic leadership for so long. If you look at the national index for the highest crime rate in the country, the top 20 cities, I believe 17 of them are run by Democratic leaders. 2 are Republican, and then 1 was an independent. That was the graphic that I saw over the summer. It may have changed because of the rise and escalation of shootings, but
if I may interject here, I think the whole, generally speaking, blue city or blue states versus red states is largely a myth. It's largely urban areas tend to be more Democrat and rural areas tend to be more Republican. Mm-hmm. In California alone, more Republicans voted for Donald Trump than in the state of Texas, right? But California is famous for being a blue state. Mm-hmm. So there's certainly it's not just about, this is a blue city or a red city. I would say that largely a city itself tends to be more Democratic. And I think that's worth noting. Mm-hmm. Also, most of those fixes tend to be conducted at the local level. That's not to say that a national program can't have influence or solutions to be applied, but these are generally local issues. I think that's worth context. So
I'm really just citing statistics that I've read, and I apologize. Sure. I'm essentially trying to say this as much as possible because racism is a very touchy subject in this country. Right. I don't want to come off as that. I'm trying to convey I might not be the best at conveying my words properly. So at any time,
Zach, you've done great. I also, I have to agree. There's overwhelming statistical evidence that having a healthy family and a father figure in your life, generally speaking, a father, and even better if it's your birth father in your life, correlates with graduating high school. All right, and I'm going to put that as...
I'm sorry. It has more of just that you learn different values from 2 different parents, a mother and a father. You cannot learn the values of a father from a mother. I mean, I'm not saying that mothers can't raise kids. I'm just saying that there are values that each parent figure will teach their children. And it's hard to raise a child like that as a single person. I'm
It
not
really
saying
is a two-person job, right? I don't think anybody's gonna really
it really is. Like, raising a kid is no joke. Like, my brother has two kids, and literally within the first 3 years of raising children, you are literally, as a parent, your one job is to make sure that the kid doesn't kill himself, because they're going to do anything and everything to put themselves in harm's way. So you're just trying to be a parent and keep them alive. But yes, you learn values from two different parental figures.
So speaking of, actually, you, how do I put this? Your brother, he's disabled, and you take care of him.
Yes.
What is he disabled with again?
He has cerebral palsy, and
That
he
was it.
has, what is it? I believe, I don't know, I can't remember if this is actually what it was called, but he had a neurological exam before. He had Angelman syndrome, I believe it was pronounced as. I'm not sure if it's correct, because I remember from what I researched before, it was a very rare disease that happened in women primarily. But either way, he has cerebral palsy and he's epileptic, and he lost oxygen for almost 2 minutes at birth, so he's pretty much has the mind of a toddler in a adult body. He can't really do anything to take care of himself. He can move around. He can feed himself using his hands, but he can't clean himself. He can't bathe himself. He pretty much round the clock care.
You know, honestly, I never heard you mention the part about the lack of oxygen, and that makes me feel so lucky right now to be me, because I myself actually didn't have oxygen for over 2 minutes when I was born.
Well, I did not know that. That's one thing you've never shared with us.
Yeah, I was born dead. I was born like dead as dead gets. No pulse, no muscle response, no breathing, like dead. But they got baby CPR, you know. So
God bless that you're okay, man.
Yeah, basically the docs just didn't want to quit. I think my dad has it all on video, and I think like most doctors, I think probably would have. I'm just assuming. I don't actually know this, but I'm just assuming that most doctors would have like quit at some point before this doctor did. But you know, eventually it worked, and over the next 2 days, my heart stopped another 3 times. I'm sure my mom was having a great time.
Your mother was probably experiencing the greatest panic attack she ever had. It was the worst panic attack she could ever imagine.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, if I just to hear completely divergent outcomes from similar circumstances, you really just gave me a gift today to appreciate.
Yeah, you should be grateful for every minute you have on this earth.
Yeah. So something that I think is surprising. I brought up kind of disability not only to show a good aspect of your moral character, but also you've actually generally talked favorably in regards to like expansion of disability programs, and that's like not something that most conservatives tend to go for because it's another government program.
Well, it's more of that's like there should be special care and special programs for people who have disabilities, because let's face it, in my family's position, if I wasn't around to help take care of my brother, they would have 2 choices: get a home care assistant or put him in a hospice home, essentially. I don't know if the correct term is hospice, because that's a place where you go to pass away, but pretty much just an institution. We'll call it that. That's a better choice of words.
Assisted living facility.
Assisted living facility. That's a better way to put it. Thank you, John Marco. Mm-hmm. But that would be their only option. And there's not very many good programs out there. Like, we're grateful in the state of New York that we have some facilities and some places that he can go to. Lifetime assistance. What is it? There's a respite place, I can't remember the name of it, that he goes to sometimes over the summer. We're grateful for that. In some states in this country, there aren't. And I think there should be programs to help families like this, because this is actually something that they may need. Because I'll give you an example, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to give away my family's personal life. there are modifications that they need to do to the house, their house essentially, to be able to take care of it, whether it be a raising and lifting platform for the bed, or not the bed, the bathtub, because lifting him in and out of the tub is cumbersome. That's not cheap. That's cost thousands of dollars. In some houses in two. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone going to say something?
No.
Okay, I just heard us, so I'm sorry. Anyway, there are some houses, some families. Like I remember watching a show a long time ago on TLC where they showed like people's just disabled assisted living lives. They needed to install like lift ramps up their stairwell to get the individual from up and down the stairs. I think there was one where they had the ceiling come down the stairs and they installed like an actual like, what was it? Almost.
Hey, Sue. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Sue. They had like a sort of like a pulley coming down the top of the staircase, riding along the ceiling as almost it was like a swing, kind of. Or actually, no. I'm losing track of my words today. Excuse me. But pretty much they had like a cable system that would bring up and down the stairs. This stuff costs a lot of money. It's not cheap to do this because it's not just, oh, I go put this in. It may take, you might have to remodel the house. You might have to change certain aspects of the house. You might have to say, oh, well, we can't install a ramp in this tub, or not a ramp, a lifter in this tub. We'll have to rip this tub out and put a new tub in. You know, that costs a lot of money, and some insurance companies for medical might not cover it. So there should be government-run programs that help these people, because these are actual individuals in families that could use the medical assistance help. So I am for that.
Okay, it seems like you were gonna go further, but yeah. So anyway, just that tends to be I want to say generally considered more liberal attitude. I think the conservative general response would be like, why should I pay for that?
Well, see, you're conjoining two different things. I'm saying like a specific thing in the healthcare program for individuals. I wouldn't say like full government healthcare plans for these individuals. There should be programs that help.
I didn't interpret that's what you meant.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I
just
apologize.
still,
that might be my misinterpretation.
Right. No, I just associate, say, creating that program just strikes to me as something that would be more likely to come out of, say, the Democrat Party than the Republican Party. Not that it would have to be exclusive to either, just that I would more expect that to come out of the other one. And the devil's advocate reason is like, why should I pay for that? Right.
Well, see, the thing is, my whole viewpoint of that is different from other conservatives, probably, or even some liberal, or even some. I'll use the Democratic side, because my family actually has an individual in it that suffers from a mental disability. There are tons of families out there that do, and I don't think that should be dictated based on party lines. I think that should be dictated as to like, I have gone through this experience. I feel for families that are going through something like this. I think there should be more programs. I wouldn't say like maybe let's give insurance programs, but like more programs to where like these families can get assisted living help, or maybe better permanent residence for these individuals. Because at some point in people's like for my families, for some point in their life, they're going to have to make the decision to where they can't take care of them anymore. My life will happen. I'll have my kids one day. I'll be married, and they won't be able to rely on me enough for once. And they might have to say, we have to make this decision. And if there's not a lot of places where an individual like my brother can go, there's not very many options for them. So I think there should be more funding into programs like this. This is a good allocation of money, helping people. But going back to what you said, my whole aspect is that on the healthcare, I don't think that the government should dictate health insurance, because government-controlled programs always, A, cost too much. We've seen that with everything that they do in Washington. And B, there's no other option. So let me put it into perspective like this. In America, people think capitalism is the devil. It's terrible, that it's not really a great thing. It only supports the wealthy. No, it gives free choice. Because let's say you wanted to go and buy, let's say, what's a common household need that we need to have?
Food.
Food. Okay, so let's say chicken. You want to buy chicken. There is store A, store B, store C. Store A offers you chicken at $2.99 a pound. Store B offers you chicken at $3.99 a pound. Store C offers you chicken at $3.50 a pound, but if you buy, like, say, 4 pounds of chicken, you get the next 4 pounds of chicken half off. Let's say, like, they're running a deal. I mean, normally you don't see this in stores, so just take what I'm saying as, like, pure example. More people are going to shop at store C. And store A and store B are going to look at this and be like, "Oh, we're not beating store C. What do we got to do? Oh, either we lower our prices to compete, or we can't." And naturally, they're going to offer benefits like, "Oh, maybe we'll price match," like what they do today. Like if you show up to Best Buy, for example, with anything on your phone that says "buy and or sold and shipped by Amazon.com," they price match it because if we don't make the sale, they're just going to go home and go on Amazon and buy it. So store A and store B will have to compete with store C. And that's what allows for a free market. You'll have the choice to either shop at this. But then let's say, for example, store B is a small owned family business. You can choose to support them. If you want to spend that extra, I believe it was like a little 50 cents to pay for the chicken, you're more than welcome to. You're not getting the half off for the next 4 pounds, but maybe you're a single person. You don't need to buy 8 pounds of chicken. The store C is more for like a family perspective. So now put it into this perspective. There's only one place to buy chicken. That store can charge whatever the hell they want. And they can do whatever they want because guess what? You need what we have. If you don't pay our price, well, sucks to be you. You don't get it. And that's what I foresee with government healthcare. They're going to either A, charge so much money, or B, it's not going to be very well run, or it's not going to give people what they have now. And they're going to be like, "Well, shit out of luck. You got no other place to go. You want to pay $30,000 for your operation out of pocket, or do you want to pay $15,000? Oh, I'm sorry. That's what you got.
I see. Oh, I see John Marco. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, so there's a few things from previous parts of the conversation that I'd love to touch upon, but we'll start with this one, for example. So I lean more left, and my personal view is that, as a society, we should be advancing to a point where basic needs of survival are met. I'm a big fan of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But essentially, like the base level is you have your survival, your food, your shelter, etc. So once you have access to that, you can elevate your life higher, so on and so forth. A very oversimplified explanation of it, but regardless, if in the case that government, not intervention, but like has control over a public sector item like health insurance, for example, isn't it not, in terms of a social contract, the responsibility of government to look out for the people? I think we can agree on that, right?
The government's job is to serve the needs of the people, and the needs
Correct.
of the people are to bolster the society. And now we can just say here that healthcare is part of that, but what the Democratic side of the aisle is trying to do is to say, okay, get rid of every single aspect of insurance. Like, I agree with you, there should be cheaper forms of healthcare. Not to disagree with that at all. But what I disagree with is what they're saying. Get rid of all of our healthcare system and say we have this one plan and that's it. That's what I don't agree with, but that's what they're going with now, and everybody is following it on the left. And that's what scares me, because that allows for government control.
Exactly. And if you take out the entity of government, if you take out government, call it an entity versus various entities, it's essentially the equivalent of monopoly, as they can charge whatever they want.
Exactly. That's what I'm afraid of. I am not against the government imposing a healthcare plan using taxpayer dollars that we already give to them, whether they allocate the budget differently. I'm not against that. That's fine. But when you tell me you're going to take away all other aspects of health insurance and say this is your only option, that's what I don't agree with. And that's what people on the left simply don't understand. Like every single person, like I don't mean to insult anybody who watches this podcast or any of you two. I use the term left to describe the right and the left because I will use the term right to describe the far right-leaning conservatives. But excuse me, I have to mute something. I had a pop-up window. But when I try to explain to them, like, why are we fighting to take away everything else when we can just instill another plan, another choice for people? No, we need to get rid of everything because it's all expensive. Like, there's a friend of mine who complains on a daily basis that he has to pay X amount of dollars every month in health insurance. And I agree, the cost of health insurance in this country is really, really high. But we can sit here and debate with it. My whole argument on that is that the healthcare providers are charging way too much money because, it's a need.
Yeah.
They can charge whatever they want.
And that was the point I was trying to make too. Like, we're talking about, as even though there might be various entities that provide you health insurance, those entities also understand that what they are supplying to you is a need that people are going to want to need. That's like the chicken we spoke about earlier, just food in general. On the Democratic side, in the past primaries, the main range of plans when it comes to healthcare range from, of course, one government-controlled public option to a public option along with the other private sector items. And if I would right now, just for my gradual learning through life, I would lean more on the fact that if we can provide a publicly funded option that in a sense forces these other to compete on a more reasonable level, that makes sense, because it's not always just about like, I of course I don't want to live in a world where everyone's well-being is something they don't have to worry about. I think we can all agree on that. But I don't think it's something that you can just do. You can flip a switch and do it overnight. Like, there's going to be compromise that have to be made to get there in a way that's feasible first and foremost. And, if a good stepping stone, I think everyone can agree, is just providing more affordable healthcare to people in general.
And I have no qualms against that. And just 1 second, Sue, I like your comment. Thank you very much. Forward. That's good thinking. Think for the future. But I agree. If, let's say, for example, if we instill a government-run program and put it into the pool of choice for people, let's say the program is run so well.
Like Medicare. That's an example, Medicare.
Let's say they implement a program like that, and it sends a message to all these private insurance companies, charge less a month, or more people are going to switch. What are they going to do? Are they going to go out of business and just, take it and be like, oh, well, we had a good run, guys? No, they're going to try to compete to stay in business because it's jobs, it's employment. They want to make money. These are organizations. As hard as it may be to grasp for some people, you don't go into business to lose money or break even. You go to make money. Like if I were to start a business today, whether it be selling crackers on the side of the road, I want to make money. That's what I want to do. I'm not in business to lose money or break even. But people view the corporations as evil, money-grubbing entities. Well, yeah, of course, because they're trying to profit, because they have to pay their shareholders, they have to pay their employees, they have to pay for upkeep of their buildings, their property, their equipment, maintenance, and everything. Yeah. And they also want to put money in the bank to expand further, because you don't just start a business and say, all right, I'm going to stop here. I'm making this much money. I'm putting $1 million in my personal pocket extra every year. I don't want to progress my company further. No, that's bullshit. You're going to take that money and be like, I want to invest it because I want to make more money. I want to grow my corporation. I want to grow my business. And that's the business.
So if I'm to label Medicare for all as all private insurance is eliminated, now there's only Medicare, versus Medicare for all who want it as now there's a government, or now Medicare has been expanded to everybody as opposed to just the age limit. And it's an option alongside private options. You would not support Medicare for all, but you would support Medicare for all who want it?
I would support the option of, let me just phrase it the way I want to. I don't sure. Just to directly answer your question, I would support the option of putting forth Medicare for all who choose for it into the pool of other insurance options. Just give people another option. And this option, if you call it affordable healthcare, call it affordable healthcare. If you want to call it Obamacare, call it Obamacare. I don't care what you call it. Just call it a Medicare plan. And if it's affordable and people want it and people sign up for it, then that's what their choice. But
what if it's subsidized?
What do you mean subsidized?
Like, let's say that, I'm going to pretend here, all right? I'm going to pretend that the company that runs their private healthcare plan demands a 100% return on their costs. So for every $2 they spend, they expect $2 in revenue, right? So let's pretend that the government is not expecting any. Let's just imagine that for every $1 I spend, I'm expecting $1 in, usage fees or tax
How
revenue.
would you profit off of healthcare, though? Because isn't the point of healthcare just to pay for the costs? You're not essentially trying to profit. I understand for a medical insurance company-wise, that may sound counterintuitive, but it's not every day that people always have to spend money on healthcare. Like, if you look at it, you pay for the potential in a lot of these plans. That's why they cost X amount of dollars. Not every day people are going into the doctor's office saying you need a $50,000 surgery. Not every day people are going to the office saying you need a brain or a lung transfusion. That's going to cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most people are going into their doctor's office and saying, I have a cough, my head hurts, my tummy hurts. Okay, here is some medicine. Our insurance company will provide you a cost deducted off of this medicine, or cost free in some aspects, and then your doctor's visit for one, no cost to you, maybe a copay or some sort, but that's what you pay for. With these insurance companies, you pay for the potential, the future. It's like buying an extended car warranty. It's $3,500 for a brand new extended warranty on your car. You don't think you'll need it, but you never know. And
you're essentially paying for peace of mind.
Exactly. And that's what these insurance companies provide. That's why plans fluctuate in value, because go ahead.
Yeah, just I don't know if the government plan, as we're imagining it hypothetically, would be more efficient. But if it has the same efficiency, then since it's not expecting profit, it would be able to offer its service at a lower price, which would effectively put out the private companies out of business. If in this theoretical world where costs are the same.
Well, see, that's the thing, because it's my same point would apply to the government-run program. Not every single person is going to be needing major surgeries or major operations or any form of major healthcare costs on a daily basis. You'll probably go to the doctor, like I said, my tummy hurts, my head hurts, I have a cough.
Got it.
So
kind of view like the government option as like a baseline.
Well, no, it's more of in the fact of like the government will indirectly potentially make money off of their healthcare plan, because the money that they take in from taxation or whatever money they allocate in the budget may not cover fully, or excuse me, let me rephrase that, may cover what it needs to cover, and there might be excess left over. So let's say, for example, the budget for the new government healthcare program for this year was like $15 trillion. Not trillion, that's a asinine number, $15 billion. And let's say they put out $15 billion this year for the budget to cover all of the healthcare costs in the country, but only $13 billion was spent that year. Okay, so they had $2 billion of excess. What are they going to do with that? Oh, they can put it into the Federal Reserve or allocate it for the next year. But that's not always going to be the case. In some years, it may fluctuate up and down. That's how insurance companies work. That's why they charge you a certain amount of money, so that way they can accrue a profit, because, as I said before, they're a business. They're not trying to break even or lose money. They need to make money to stay afloat. They have to pay their workers. They have to pay their shareholders. They have to pay their employees. Or excuse me, I said workers and employees at the same time. They need to pay their upkeep costs and their buildings and all the services they provide. They need to make sure that they have revenue and money set aside to be able to pay for costs while also accruing income. So, in essence, the government could potentially make money, or in a way, but that's not what's going to happen, because they're going to like with everything that has been shown in government run programs, it's always overcosted, it's always goes over budget, it's never under budget. You have not heard of a single program. I may be wrong, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I have heard, there are not any programs that have gone on now that go under budget. The government does not go like, oh, we met under budget this year, we're doing great, guys. Like, no, everything's overcosted. We're spending tens of billions of dollars in our military every year, and everybody thinks that's not.
It's kind of funny that you bring up the inefficiency of government programs, because I think it was just last week or the week before that Pierce was bringing up like the phrase of good enough for government work, and what our thoughts were on that. And it's quite unfortunate that the general consensus, at least it seems these days, is that good enough for government work is relatively a bare minimum bar in terms of just like checking off all the regulatory stuff and like that. Where I guess in a more ideal society, the government in which we depend on to look out for the well-being of the people, so to speak, would be like what would you want to strive for to be.
And that's why I don't agree with the government having full control of the healthcare. If they just put out a plan into the free market of choice for people to choose from, sure, that's fine. I have nothing against that. Better healthcare, you want it, let the government put a plan out there. For them to say, we're going to take out everything and this is all you got, that's totalitarian control right there. That's how you control a population. You take their needs. This fits into more of my conspiracy theories or how my opinion of views of the left, but when you can control a population on their basic needs and wants, you will make them do whatever you want. Let's face it, if today you could not enter the store at all because the government said you didn't pay your taxes, you could not enter the store to buy food at all, what would you do? You would do whatever you could to pay your taxes because you didn't eat for a week and you need food in your fridge. Otherwise, you're going to starve. Every single place in the country, you cannot buy food until you pay your taxes. You pay them. What if they control your health care? Because there was an individual on Joe Biden's, or excuse me, let me rephrase that so I can be respectful. President Joe Biden's coronavirus task force team. There was, I need to get the individual's name, because he said you are better off dead at 75. He wrote an article that clearly stated that it is better, instead of paying all of this money to keep you alive, as far as medical costs, medicine, nursing homes, let nature take its course. This man literally said this. That fucking scares me that this person can say, I think your grandma or grandfather or mother or father or sibling is better off dead at 75. No, because no one's going to think that. Everybody wants to live as long as they can and enjoy their family's life. But this person said that. I'm going to find this individual's name right now so I don't sound like I'm pulling things out of my ass.
Yeah. And just take a step back a little bit to better understand your ways of thinking and why you lean a certain way, Zach. Like, you're talking greatly about, ways in which the government can get involved to better serve society. If in this example, a way for government to get involved in healthcare. But traditional, I would say, conservative understanding is that they want less government involvement in every aspect of life. So I guess the question that I would like to ask of you is, what would you say makes you a conservative?
My conservative viewpoints are pretty much as to what I feel is that the country should have. We should have respect for one another. We defend our nation. We respect our country and respect what the Constitution says, not try to extrapolate what it means. And honestly, it's basically another way to put it. I just talked in circles right there. I sometimes do that. Basically, my viewpoints. I think we should have guns. I think a civilization should have the right to defend itself. Do I think we need fully automatic assault rifles or light machine guns or military-based equipment? In some aspects of our society, certain citizens, yes, can have that, who have proper clearance, whether they have served in the military or law enforcement for countless amounts of years. But to the basic standpoint, yes, we should have a way to defend ourselves. Do I think it should be as easy as to walk into a store and buy a gun? Absolutely not. There should be background checks. Okay. Like, as a conservative, I agree with guns, but I also agree with gun control because my life ain't going to change one bit if I have to wait 6 months to purchase an AR-15. My life is not going to be severely affected if I have to wait to do something like that.
And what's funny about that, maybe it's my militariness or whatever, but I don't think it is. I had this opinion before I joined the military. I'm not okay with it in the slightest. Absolutely not. If you are allowing the system to be delayed by a whole 6 months, you are denying a right.
Well, no, it's more
fundamentally you're denying a right.
I understand it, but I was using that 6 months as like an example. I'm not necessarily saying it should take 6 months, but I use it as a way to describe like there should be, a waiting period or something like that to, properly investigate individuals who are buying firearms, so that way you are selling to the right individuals. And so crazy lunatics don't get their hands on them as easily. I mean, granted, you could still go on the black market for gun sales and still find one if you were that kind of a person who wanted to inflict mass harm on a body of citizens or just to get a gun illegally. You can. Unfortunately, it exists. There's nothing you can do about it. The black market exists for everything. If there is a need and a want, somebody is going to supply it to you, because this is the dirtiest thing in the world right now. Money is greed. People want it. People need it. People need to have it. And people are going to do what they need to do to get it. Some people will do the bad dog, dirty dick ways to get it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and this ties back to the beginning of our conversation in terms of like the partisan divide we're facing, because at least on some aspects of the left that are really for gun control, there's obviously the extreme that take away all guns, but there's also people that like, hey, no, but we should have sensible gun laws and make sure that we have rational background checks. Like, some people would consider that a talking point on the left, but they're so black and white definitive that think, oh, Republican, they can't possibly think that. No. And that comes back to the general divide of like, if you're not agreeing with me, you're obviously against me, or if you're not in this party, you're obviously against that, everything we stand for.
And I went to a gun store when I bought my AR-15 over COVID, and they were like, I talked to the guy. You know what the funny thing was? It was a black gentleman too, and he served in law enforcement for 25 years. And he said what I just said to all of you right now. If I got to wait 6 months to buy a gun, my life ain't going to change. Sure, have gun control legislation, but don't put forth stupid laws and stupid things, or impose like stupid sanctions like we need to take everything away. Because, like, for example, just to show you how stupid some of the gun laws are, I won't actually bring my rifle on camera, but I will describe it. So on assault rifles or any sort of magazine fed weapon, there is a magazine release button that drops the mag out of the weapon, and then you can load a freshly loaded mag into the rifle and to continue to fire. So the New York State deemed that is too easy of a way to inflict mass harm. It's too quick, it's too fast, it's too effective. This is what the SAFE Act did. They made it so that way when you buy a rifle, they have to take out the mag release button and input a lock into it to keep the mag fixed in the weapon. So the only way you could load the weapon is to detach the upper receiver from the lower to actually expose the mag well, and then individually load rounds. And then somebody found out a genius way that you just get a speed loader that's the shape of a magazine and pull back the charging handle on a rifle and put the speed loader into the empty cartridge ejector and fill the magazine that way. So essentially you're putting the mag in the gun a different way, but you're not putting the mag in to let it fix. And it's the same thing. From my practice, it's the same as loading and unloading a magazine. And even furthermore, to show you how stupid it is, you could actually drill out that lock at home and put in a new trigger release. Or not trigger release, a mag release.
So,
but
you're preventative. It's not as preventative as it would have liked.
Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That law makes absolutely no sense. If somebody wanted to, like I said, they could drill that mag lock out and put a mag release button in, and the rifle will function just as it should. So If somebody wanted to, they can do it. All that law does is inconvenience, I want to say, responsible gun owners, because we would just use the other form of loading the magazine with the speed loader.
Would you say that one of the reasons, it doesn't matter how big it is, that you are a conservative is because you feel like there needs to be a check on the other side of thinking, regardless of what it is?
What do you mean by the other side of thinking a check?
Because as you were talking, I was thinking about, and this is very insightful, by the way, your point speaking about gun ownership, because that's not something I'm too well versed in myself. Joe Biden last week at some point, I forgot where he said this, but he was talking about how we need a Republican Party. We need an opposition that's strong, essentially. And while some people can have disagreements with the other side, I personally feel that it can be a slippery slope to have just one super strong majority party if we don't have someone to check the other side or at least bring a different viewpoint.
Mm-hmm. And just to hold off on you, I'll respond to you in a second. Ezekiel Manuel is the individual on Joe Biden's team that said, who wrote the article, "You Are Better Off Dead," or excuse me, it's titled "Why I Hope to Die at 75." Ezekiel Manuel said that. He is an advisor to President Joe Biden's coronavirus team. So that's just to answer that. But no, I don't think that the gun law, the right to bear arms is there to check the other side.
Oh, I'm talking about your I would say going further back. I may have misstated, but just having an opposition party in general. Do you find that important? I feel like I would.
You're saying
Yeah.
is it's important to have two different sides of the aisle?
More so the fact that it's bad enough that we only have a two-party system. I think it would be even worse if we have one, regardless if it's your party or not.
I think it would be the worst thing to happen to this country, whether it be Democrat or Republican. We should not. But unfortunately,
I almost actually hope that a one-party system could be an improvement over our current system, because then what do you evaluate them on? You can't evaluate them on being a Democrat if they're all Democrats, right?
Pierce,
so I would hope that, but according to history, that is not what happens.
I completely disagree with you saying that we should have a one-party system.
No, I didn't say we should have a one-party system. I said I would hope that a one-party system could work better, because it wouldn't be about this side versus that side. If everybody's on the same quote-unquote like side, because it's one party, then you would actually hopefully evaluate the leaders or the potential leaders as individuals, rather than, oh, they're a Democrat, or oh, they're a Republican, because those parties don't exist. That's saying what I would hope for, like that's a logical, I think, outcome out of the situation. But according to history, that's not what happens.
Exactly. I don't want any party system. I wish we could go back to the beginning of this country to where we didn't have the Democratic and Republican
That's my point.
parties.
Effectively, if one party was no party.
Because I think a one-party system, like you said, it's the worst thing that can happen. It never works, because when you give one side too much power, and even in this situation, okay, if Republicans were the ones who assumed the one-party system, I wouldn't agree with it, because that that diminishes the other opinion and the other side. That's not how a society should work. Okay, we should have two people that have sets of ideas. And those might not reflect two-party systems. Or better yet, let me explain it this way. We should just have a whole body of individuals that have ideas. Yeah, all of us can agree on some things. All of us can disagree on other things. But we all should have our opinion. We all shouldn't just be like, oh, I'm right and you're wrong. That is not okay. That is not how a society should function. That is Nazism in a sense. That is how the Third Reich started. This is our way of thinking, and if you're not with us, you're against us. That's how Nazi Germany happened. You're either with us or against us. So I don't like that mentality. And honestly, I wish the two-party system would not exist anymore either. I wish we could just have candidate 1, candidate 2, not Democratic candidate blank blank or Republican candidate blank blank, because then that's just like, you're not voting for the person's ideas and what you agree with. You're voting for the party lines. The only people who actually vote in the way I said before the party lines are the undecided voters or the independents. So Before, people on the right could go with the left, and the people on the left could go with the right. That used to happen before, because sometimes there were candidates that you would see that were total dumpster fires. Like, for example, I thought Mitt Romney was a total dumpster fire when Obama ran for his second term. I did not like Mitt Romney in the slightest. I did not vote for him.
I like Romney.
I did not.
Isn't it great to have different opinions?
I think Romney would have been a good president.
It is the most beautiful thing in the world. And another thing too. Think about what we're doing right now. I mean, we're just having a conversation. Three people in this channel right now are having different opinions, but we're all coming together. I'm sorry, I was reading Sue's quote.
Oh.
What do you mean by fingerprint locked?
As in, like, it
so
only
you
trigger and be used to like identify you as a user. So only you can use.
That's like some futuristic military shit. That ain't never gonna happen. All right, we would be like 400 years in the future to have like some sci-fi weapons and stuff like that. No, I just think that there should just be restrictions on people doing that. But no, excuse me, Sue. That was more of a joke to what you said. I mean, if that were to happen, honestly, that would be so cool. Like to have my AR-15 like fingerprint locked to me, like, oh. This is awesome. Just like when you go to the range, it's just like, hello, Zach. Thank you for using me today. Bang, bang. And then I give this to my dad, and they're like, access denied. And the gun just like falls apart because fingerprints scare. Like that would just be cool to me. I don't know why I think that's
let's
awesome.
not lose your train of thought, Zach, about this.
Sorry, apologies. But I do that sometimes.
For what it's worth, they do exist right now, and Quincy Norton is pointing out actually a problem with the current version of them. They're a little heavier. They can be slower to read and unlock, and of course, the battery is a concern because if the battery dies, then they fall apart. I think the gun industry trend is going away from fingerprint locking and instead going to basically, I forget what the biometric way to call it is, but effectively a handprint. But it's not a handprint based on the lines of your hand, but on like apparently your grip pressure points is my understanding of it. I am not closely learned on the subject, but that is my layman's understanding. Basically, your grip has unique pressure points based on where your muscles are. So accordingly, that is going to mean that you apply pressure in a fingerprint, a handprint, if you will, and therefore that gun is now biometrically locked to you. And if that's the case, then that doesn't actually have to be electric. I think, again, not positive on that, but I think it's mechanically possible, so it could work without a battery. I really don't know in detail a lot about that, but my impression, at least, is that is where the biometrics aspect of gun development is going, because there's a lot of like parents out there that realize like, yeah, I still want a gun, but I don't want my kid to get it, right? Mm-hmm. You know, because
I agree.
That's the most common gun death. 2 to 1. 2 to 1 is suicides. That's the most common source of gun death. And then the most common not suicide death is still accidents. Mm-hmm. So like, you know, if we're eliminating accidents, I don't know what the number is there, but like that's, I think if someone wants to kill themselves to a large degree, they're going to kill themselves. Guns just happen to be the way that they're doing it.
Unfortunately, it's the quickest and easiest way to do it.
It is one of the easier ways to do it. And I'm sure that if you took away that ease of access, yes, more people would not kill themselves. But as a whole, I don't think that that's solving the problem. I think solving suicide is the problem or whatever, right?
Exactly. I think the mental health I'm sorry, go ahead, cut you off. Go ahead.
Right. So I was going to say, so by preventing accidents, right, like that is one of the ways that you can like most effectively cut down on gun deaths, because that's the next largest segment after suicides within the portion of not suicides.
I think addressing the mental health issues in this country are more prominent into actually solving, because the mental health of individuals in this country have a direct correlation to a lot of the violence that occurs. And going back to before, John Marco, I like I was saying, I absolutely enjoy that we could be two individuals in this party or in this call right now who have two different ideas and mindsets, and we can just have a calm, cohesive, coherent conversation with each other. We're not throwing chairs. We're not calling each other names. We're not hating each other. We're listening. And this is what I wish this country would just go back to. And sadly, I don't think it is. I don't think it ever will be until we have like a major political revolution. Then maybe that'll be the outcome, or a one-party system is going to happen. I'm leaning towards the one-party system is eventually going to happen. But going back to what I was saying before, a lot of the mental health issues in this country directly correlate to gun violence. If you look at a lot of these, how do I say it, like these horrific tragedies that have occurred, Sandy Hook, the school shooting in Florida, the Las Vegas massacre, these aren't average your everyday gun owners that are responsible Second Amendment human beings that are going out there and just committing violent acts. No, these are people who had mental issues that were, how do I say it, a little messed up in the head is the best way I can say it, and were left unaddressed. Like, what was it? The kid in Florida, I can't remember his name, but he got expelled from school for selling knives, and he had a very bad rap sheet of, what was it? Disobedience in the classroom, not being a good student, very bad attitude. Like, this kid raised all the red flags of not saying that he was going to be the next mass murderer or the next Columbine individual, but like, you know, this person might not be well mentally. Because if you're going to school and selling knives and you're getting expelled and you're disobeying your school of teachers or like orders essentially in the classroom, not doing your schoolwork, failing grades, you know, there's a problem here. And that's what got overlooked. And the FBI actually had this kid on a watch list and then took him off. And then look what happened. One day he finally snapped and shot up the school that he went to and killed people. And the individual from, it's been so long, but I remember watching it happen, Sandy Hook, because I was home at the time because I was working nights. I remember turning on the news and seeing children. For God's sakes, children were running out of a classroom, out of a school. 25 children were shot and killed. Some crazy lunatic walked up to children and ended their life. That's not a Second Amendment supporter right there. But everybody on the left says if you support the Second Amendment, you're evil and you think that this is okay. You're killing our kids. No, it's the mentally unstable individuals that are committing these violent acts. And I'm not trying to demonize people. I'm just saying that we need to address that problem in our society. It's an issue that has been left unchecked. Mental institutions across the state of New York have been shut down since I believe it was the 1950s or 60s, and they have not been reopened. They're not addressing the situations properly. If a child is growing up in a school and has severe issues, disobedience, not doing their responsibilities as a kid, and doing terrible acts like getting expelled or getting in fights, or bullying, because that's another thing. John Marco, where did he go?
I don't know what happened. Hopefully he's alive.
Should we continue?
You can keep going, yeah.
But no, it's like we need to address these issues in our country because that is where a lot of. Hi, John Marco, how you doing? We lost you for a second. Did you cut out in my conversation at all?
No, I followed along, but I just missed like a short snippet. But I follow along on what you're saying.
Okay, just wanted to make sure if I needed to back up a little bit. But
Appreciate
we need to address those issues in the country as far as our mental health. Okay, we need to help individuals who are not well, and not just say, "Here's your medicine." Are they going to take it? We don't know that. We're not really solving the issue here. I mean, I don't know what the answer could be to mental health. I could give my thoughts on it, but I don't know what the true answer is. All I know is that we need to address that problem in our country because it's apparent. Every single mass tragedy and mass shooting in this country has been from a person who had a track record of unstable or mentally different acts. And that needs to be addressed. We can't just say, let's ban guns because that's the only way to get this to stop. Yeah, ban guns. Like, no, you morons. That's not going to fix the problem. Okay? Because I could take a pencil and put it in the freaking pencil sharpener and walk over to my classmate and stab them in the jugular and they'll die in 4 minutes because that's how long it takes for the blood in your body to get pumped out by the jugular vein. If somebody wants to commit mass harm on this country, or excuse me, on a body of individuals, they're going to do it. It's just that, like you said before, Pierce, with the suicide thing, guns, they're the easiest and quickest avenue to do it. Is that an argument to ban them completely? No, that's not. Because if I were to put a gun in a room, nothing is going to happen to anybody in that room until somebody picks that gun up and shoots somebody. Does that mean, something would have happened if that gun wasn't in there or not? No, that gun didn't do anything. The person did something. It's the person's fault, not the gun's fault. A gun is a tool, not a living thing that can be blamed for something.
Right. So Sue mentioned that Andrew Yang shares a lot of ideas with you. So I remember a quote of yours. Andrew Yang is the only Democrat I would ever consider voting for.
I am, as a Republican, a person who voted for Donald Trump, I will stand here today and I will say this. I look at both sides of the aisle because, like I said before, sometimes your candidates that get put into the position to be the next president are dumpster fires. In my case, you liked Mitt Romney? I didn't. I wasn't for him. And in this case, I looked at the other side of the aisle and I saw Andrew Yang as, this is a person that I have interest in listening to because he shares a lot of the same ideas that I do. Even though I am a Republican, I will still sit there and listen to the other side and have reason and have understanding, because I am not like how a lot of people today are, not just on the left, but on the right too. We have this kind of blockhead mentality where it's our way of thinking. And if you're with us, you're with us. If you're against us, you're not standing by our side or understanding our ideas or supporting our ideas. And that's what I hate. I hate that.
Yeah.
I don't like that mentality because that's not how you do business for the people. It's not how you get across proper and true and honest change, whether it be racial, whether it be justice for all. That's not how you get across proper change. You have to sit down and understand ideas. Just like how you asked me before, Pierce. Can I say that is it tougher to be black in this country? I can't answer that question because I am not black. I can't say for certain that it is or isn't because I haven't lived in a person's shoes that is black to say something like that. So I think that we need to get rid of this blockhead mentality. You can be there and say, I have this group of ideas. They reside more on the Republican side or vice versa. They reside more on the Democratic side. But don't sit there and say that the other side is a piece of shit, a Nazi, a bigot, a sexist, a homophobe, a racist, blah, blah, blah. Because what is that really doing? What is that really doing except causing division?
How does that help?
Exactly. It doesn't. It further divides each other. Because then you have people like me who are like, well, I'm willing to sit in and, have a conversation. But everybody on the other side is like, you're a racist, you're a bigot, bad words. And then you're just like, whoa, I don't really want to talk to these people. So it's like this, the gap, further division.
If 2020 is like, this is relevant, but it's a kind of a different question. So if 2020 was a normal year and Donald Trump had a rally in Rochester, would you go to it?
100%. 100% I would have. I would have loved to see the president of the United States. Just how, like, Pierce, have I told you that I've actually sat down and I shook President Joe Biden's hand, but as he was former vice president under Obama?
No, I don't think you ever told me that.
He came to Rochester, New York, because there was a AIM Photonics. There was a new building opening up in Rochester. We were supposed to become the new photonics center of the world, or not the world, United States. It was partnered with RIT. I actually have the pictures here. I'll pull them up on my phone. Joe Biden actually came here. My father ran the building he was a maintenance guy. He ran the building. He got to like meet Secret Service and all this stuff. I got to meet some Secret Service. It was the coolest thing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was honestly the coolest thing. I have never been this close to like a political power figure. I got to see Cuomo. I got to see lovely Warren, and then I saw Vice President Joe Biden. I actually got to shake his hand. My father had a note written for him with Joe Biden's name. He thinks it's worth millions of dollars now because he's president, but I don't think so. I think he should just keep it because it was a nice. But no, I actually got to meet him. To this day, after listening to the speech that he gave there, I thought it was a typical, normal politician speech, and I really didn't like it. So I still, to this day, don't like the guy because he just sounds like a normal politician. And that's why I voted for Trump. I disagree with Joe Biden, our ex-president Joe Biden, on a lot of his policies, and that's my stance. Do I hate the guy? No. Do I wish death upon him like everybody on the left did to Trump? Absolutely fucking not. Ranked choice voting. Sue, to answer your question, I don't know too much about ranked choice voting. My Pierce has filled me in on it before, but I would need a refresher. We can discuss that later. And I would need to also research it myself to also see what it is. And then I would make a better assumption.
That is actually something I wanted to bring up while we were talking about the whole one party problem and how we wish we had no political parties. But yeah, we can speak to that later. But
ranked choice voting, by the way, I think it should probably be said at this point since you said you didn't know what it is. So ranked choice voting is you got one vote, and instead of it just only going to one person, and if that person doesn't get first, then it's done. If nobody has over 50% in the first round, then whoever had the least votes is eliminated, and anybody that voted for that person gets to then vote for their second choice. Only the thing is, you don't do it then, you do it when you fill out the sheet. So you rank your choices. You rank your choices first, second, third, fourth, and it goes up all the way until somebody actually gets more than 50% of the total votes.
So you're saying, like, if I had 4 candidates, I'd put them 1 through 4?
Yeah. If you had 4 candidates, you'd put them 1 through 4.
As a joke, I'm just going to say this. I don't like that system because in high school, well, it should be middle school going into high school, I had a choice to choose my foreign language class, and they gave us the exact same situation that you're saying. 1 through 4. Put your most desired at 1, your least desired at 4. And my least desired was French, and I got put in French. So I was like, damn it, I don't like this. But no, in the pure political, that was more of a joke. But in the pure political aspect, I would still have to do more research on it. But if that's the basic premise of it, ranked choice voting, you put your most desired candidate first. I mean, it just sounds like if you had 4 options as president, like if we had 4 candidates to choose from as president, 1, 2, 3, 4, like, okay, like, I mean, makes sense to me.
One of the fundamental problems in the way our electoral system is set up currently, we just call it first past the post, is that naturally over time, it'll create a 2-party system. Yeah. Like if we have the entire reason third parties essentially don't exist anymore is because a lot of the people that would support them otherwise know their vote's not going to matter. Exactly. And ranked choice voting is a way to put that back, because if we had 3 candidates, let's say Libertarian or Green Party, let's do 4 for the sake of this example, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, and Green, everyone can support whoever they want without the fear of knowing that, hey, this is not going to cause my candidate to lose or, cause someone else's candidate to win. No one's siphoning my vote. But if I support another candidate, I can put him at 2. So if my person doesn't get the above 50% threshold, I at least made my voice heard in the first round, and I can essentially live with whoever the second choice is.
Exactly. So I like that idea.
Yeah, exactly. So it allows for people to express their vote without making it feel like they're wasting it anymore.
The problem is that applying that to our current society right now, people are always voting for their party lines anyway. So everybody's going to put essentially the Democrat or the Republican candidate ahead. If we didn't have a political party system to where like it was just back in the old days where we just had people, then yes, ranked choice voting would make sense in an essence. It would have to be tested, and for me to actually say it's okay and perfect and fine, it would have to just go through the normal lifespan of every political party or every political system in this country. But Yes, I like that idea. You get to choose 1, 2, 3, 4. I like this guy more. I like this guy not as much as this guy, but just as much. I would, I'd be happy. And then this person, not so much as 2 and 3, but like, okay, like if he gets in, whatever. I mean, he's not the best choice, but at least I don't like him. And the number 4, fuck no, I don't like this guy. But it's just how it'll be. But as a little tidbit, so here is when he came to AIM Photonics. I don't know if the lighting is fucking things up.
Lighting's all right. Photo looks blurry.
Yeah, a little blurry here. Let me back up a little bit. So let me go back. So this was the meeting at AIM Photonics. There's a lot of the people. There's the podium. This is Cuomo. Hang on, let me turn off my lamp because it's like right freaking here. So here's Cuomo.
I think the move might be to put your phone back a little bit and zoom in.
Yeah, I think it's more of that the lighting and from my monitor is scoofing this up. There's Cuomo, and then there's Joe Biden.
Nice.
So I can put those in the chat if I just can access my phone. But I actually got to meet the guy, so I shook the president's hand at this time, but I'm just going back to the other topic. But ranked choice voting does have some basic premise. Like I can understand,
and it's good. It'd be good to know that it actually has been tested. One of the New England states used it for the I think senatorial races this past election cycle, and
Maine.
It's being used for Maine, and it's being used for the New York mayoral race for New York City this upcoming election.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, Bill de Blasio does not get reelected because that man is a dumpster fire.
Well, I can guarantee it won't.
Bill de Blasio is at term limits, so he can't run.
I forgot about that, actually. I actually forgot that he actually had the term limit was up.
Yeah. You know who is running, though?
Who?
Your favorite Democrat.
Andrew Yang?
Andrew Yang is running for mayor of New York City.
Well, you know what? I'll look up into him a little bit more and see how his policies have stayed similar or changed. But I don't live in New York City, but I can always root for somebody. So we'll see what I find out about him. So I hope that the ranked choice voting that actually conducts is done well and it proves to be effective. But
he's also currently about first in polling. I forget what the number was, but it was like 30%.
Oh, so that's good.
Something along those lines.
So Zach, another
in polling right now.
Another question, if you will entertain me.
Yes, sir,
what are your views on Trump's just rhetoric in general, like the way he speaks to other people, or let's say particularly the way he speaks to Democrats in the opposition?
Well, you have to look at it like this. The man has been insulted by the left in various ways. They've called him a racist. They've called his family a racist. They've attacked his family. They've attacked his business. They've attacked his legacy. They've attacked him. As a person, if I was in that shoe or in his shoes, or better example, if somebody was doing this to me, I would retaliate back and I would use choice words as well. Some of the things that he said definitely were, a little unorthodox, probably not very presidency. We can definitely both agree on that. A lot of the things he said were definitely not well-mannered for the position that he sat in. But you know what? If I sat in an office for 4 years and I got called a racist by everybody on the left, I'd be pretty fucking pissed off. And that's another thing, too, that I wanted to talk about, but we'll get into that later. Pierce, remind me before this ends, because I want to say something about that. But, it's just like he's been viciously attacked by the left for 4 years. Like, for God's sakes, the man wasn't even inaugurated, and the Democratic Party was already calling for his impeachment. On day one of his presidency, after he was inaugurated, there were people in the House of Representatives saying, I move for the impeachment of the 45th president of the United States. And I believe, who was the Democratic House representative, the individual? I cannot remember his name. It starts with a J, I believe. He just passed away. He fought in the Civil Rights Acts recently.
John Lewis.
John Lewis. I knew it started with a J. I could not remember. I couldn't remember. I didn't know if it was Joe or a different name, but John Lewis.
You were right back again.
He said, outlook, keep in mind, there's prominence in the 2010s, fights on Twitter as Donald Lewis. Okay.
He's talking about Trump, I think.
Okay. Rosie O'Donnell? Oh, yeah, because Rosie O'Donnell slandered Trump. And you know what? He said it on national television that you're terrible towards women. And he said, only Rosie O'Donnell, only her He's not attacking women. He's attacking a specific person, a person who
All right.
insulted him. He's not attacking a population or a general group of individuals. He's attacking one person. But
So I hate to bring this one up, but you know what? It's relevant and it's famous, so I'm gonna use it. There's the famous "grab 'em by the pussy" line, which I'm gonna get as close as I can remember to the quote. When you're rich or famous, a woman will let you do anything you want to them. You can grab them by the pussy. First off, is that quote close enough to you, or to your memory? And second off,
yes, I remember that.
Say again.
I remember that happening.
All
I
right.
remember watching it live on television. And to answer your question coming up, I disagree with that statement entirely. That was very rude, very disrespectful. But it
didn't overshadow. Right.
You know what?
Either
he said it. It's words. It was terrible. It was nasty. And you know what he did right away? And that, you know what I commended him for? Granted, it was locker room talk that nobody knew about. It was between somebody, and then it came out of nowhere. You know what he did? At least he did this. He went on national television and said, "Hey, everybody, I'm not going to lie to you. I said it. I'm sorry. It was wrong." You know, yeah, that may not sound like a real, like, good apology to some people, but you know what? At least he didn't deny it. At least he didn't sit there and say, "Oh, I never said that." "Oh, that's your voice on the case." "No, that wasn't me. I didn't say that." No, he sat there and said he admitted to saying it. It was wrong. "I'm sorry." So I at least commended him for apologizing. I didn't like what he said, but you know what? At least he apologized. We say a lot of things every single day that are probably not the greatest thing in the world. You know what? At least he apologized. At least he had the moral.
A lot of shit, but I have not ever said that. More worrisome than just the words, though, I think, is the implication that he's done that. You know, because he's saying when you're rich and famous, like me, Donald Trump, you can do that. The implication was that he has done that effectively to women that he has just met. So it's not just words. Now, I'm not saying that he said that he did it, but the implication is there. Like, that's the driving.
The implication is there, and right. Yes, he probably has done that.
So probably has done that, and of course, I already know you don't condone that behavior, right?
Absolutely not.
But you do think that is not a disbarring qualifier for president, or if it is a disbarring qualifier, well, then he was still better than Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton, by the way, has her baggage. None of this episode is going to be on defending her.
Joe Biden groped young children on national television and sniffed a young girl's hair. So if we want to call a ball and a strike, so that's wrong. But I'm not going to try to dilute your claim. I agree with you. It's not right. I disagree with him saying that and actually potentially doing it. I'm not going to say that it definitely changed my vote or said I could stay with him on that side. I wanted Trump because I did not want Clinton. I knew what Hillary Clinton was going to bring to this country. She was a corrupt individual. For God's sake, she had a private server in her house. She should be in prison. Phones were destroyed. Coincidentally, things were erased and destroyed when there was an investigation about to happen. It's so convenient that all of these tragic things always happen. Oh, the cell phones were destroyed when you were about to do an investigation. Oh, there's nothing behind that. But that I'm not going to get off topic.
Yeah,
but
Clinton has her baggage, and this is why I supported Gary Johnson in the 2016 election, because I did not.
And it's important and especially if someone's on your team. Like, I was a Clinton voter that unhappily voted. Wasn't super happy with my vote. I had a lot of concerns with Donald Trump's character, though. I could understand the appeal of him not being a politician.
Mm-hmm.
And I will gracefully admit that I have learned a lot in the past 4 years. Like, me compared to 2016 is a completely different person, I would say. And I would say that one of the side benefits of everyone's concerns over Donald Trump's presidency is that thankfully a lot more people are civically engaged. Like, for the longest time, I was really hopeful that we could just bring up voter turnout 5 points from 2016, excuse me. And I'm happy to see that we're up at like plus 11 points as of the last I checked in terms of the total vote. We went from like 55 to 66%, which is in any good society. Like, as long as the higher the voter turnout, in my opinion, the better for the society.
Oh, I
Like,
agree, and I think a lot of that played into the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of people voted on emotional lines, but we can go into that later further. But uh, like you were saying, go on. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I don't know. I was just an interjection, and my apologies. I had to go take care of something. I got a glass of
You're
champagne
good.
while I was at it,
Oh,
but
that sounds great. I wish
yeah.
I'll crack it right now.
Actually, technically, I wouldn't say technically, but more like traditionally, initially, when we started this podcast, we kind of all did have tacos because this podcast is called Growth with Tacos. So we all had tacos at the beginning, and it kind of evolved like, well, you'll have taco, I'll have a beer, and who doesn't love, as long as we're having something that's taco related. So I guess we're still trying to play into that. But I do agree with in general that, you know, I'm a kind of person that, especially if it's someone that I support, I will hold them to a higher standard. Like, I don't want to turn a blind eye to anything
I agree.
because it's just like absolutely not. And you know, there are I forgot my train of thought specifically on this. Oh, so and you seem the a kind of rational person. So let me bring this onto you as a conservative that supports Trump. So one of the more misleading things, and Pierce is already familiar with this, I've spoken about it recently and I posted on Facebook about it, but during the passing of the most recent COVID relief package, I don't know how closely you were following along, how it was combined with the government spending bill, etc. Were you
Yes, it was.
kind of looking at that? Okay, so do you remember Trump's video statement? It is like, oh, this bill that has come to my desk has a lot of things that aren't related to COVID relief. It has all these monies for different nations, etc. Do you remember that video that he released?
Yes.
He was demanding $2,000. I found that personally one of the more effective misleading things he has laid out, because there was that spewed about a lot of misinformation. Like one of the more common.
Go ahead, sorry. I wanted to interject, but I apologize. I'm not going to interrupt you.
Yeah, but one of the more common things I saw on social media going around is like, oh, the people are getting what is it 600, or yeah, I think it's like $600 in relief, and you multiply that by the population, there's only this much, and the bill is this much total. This is all the money the countries are getting. But people were confusing the totals of the two different bills. Like, one was completely COVID relief related, the other one is the general government spending bill that has to be released for the government not to shut down. And more specifically, my concern was it made it seem like that Congress put stuff into the bill in foreign aid, when in reality, it was that Trump's White House requested that foreign aid be put into the bill as part of the annual presidential request on the budget. So it made it seem like, oh, Egypt's getting $1.3 billion. What's that? I'm like, well, if you look at, I think it was like page 70 on the White House website, they were specifically requested that. And I just think that was incredibly misleading. And I think he clearly understood what he was doing there. But technically, on a wording perspective, he wasn't wrong, because when he says the bill that has come to my desk has this much money for foreign aid and stuff that isn't related, it's true, because it's one combined bill now. It is COVID relief that has a bunch of stuff specifically for COVID relief that has no foreign aid built into it, that is attached to the government omnibus spending bill that has a traditional foreign aid that always has to go through for, you know, soft power, etc. But that's a different topic.
I get that, but the problem with that situation is that the bills should never have been tied together.
I agree.
Trump tried to propose COVID relief a while ago. See, this is what people on the left and on the right seem to don't understand, but it's really on the left that it happens a lot. They kept saying that Republicans don't want to help anybody, and Trump's a terrible person. He doesn't want to help the country. Okay, he tried to sign executive orders back in August to extend unemployment benefits, extend the eviction for people.
The eviction moratorium,
moratorium, and actual stimulus. The House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, said this is unconstitutional what he's doing, because the Senate and the House of Representatives could not come to an agreement. Okay, and that's bull. Okay, and the first COVID bill that they tried to pass when it got shot down in the House was they wanted to impose money spending, or excuse me, not shut down in the House, shut down in the Senate. They wanted to give money to government agencies for COVID relief. Why does Harvard Law School need $50 million? Why do these high prestigious institutions that charge tens of thousands of dollars for tuition need money because of COVID relief when they're charging full tuition value for children to go to school on Zoom. They're not losing money. It's unnecessary spending that he was talking about. He wanted simple things: direct payments to Americans, small business relief, extend the moratorium so that way people don't get evicted. Mm-hmm. That's what he wanted. He wanted the basics for what the people need. But the House wanted to give money to all of these organizations that really didn't need the money. That's what he was against in the first bill. That's why he signed the executive orders. And then probably when he got this bill, the House worded it as, you need to have both of these bills all combined in one, or we're not going to sign it, or we're not going to okay it, or we're going to fight it in the Senate, or some other bullshit, or they're not going to pass the bill in the House. And then that would just cause the country to shut down. So they had to agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for this point because I don't remember exactly right now what were the specifics of combining it to the omnibus bill. But would it be accurate to say that he was knowingly misleading the public by his statement to make it seem like, oh, Congress...
I don't think it was intentionally misleading the public. This is what he got in the bill. He wanted to sign two separate bills, the one for the COVID relief and one for the government spending. It should not be all in one. It should not be one bill. It should be two separate bills so that way the public understands what is in the COVID relief bill and what is in the government spending bill. So you can't just combine them all in one. But
one could say that Trump made no real effort to clarify that it was two separate combined bills in his statements.
He didn't combine.
That's why I was going back to the particular wording he used, because in a sense it is, I would say, technically true. When he says the bill that came to my desk has all this unnecessary foreign aid, he is essentially bashing the foreign aid his White House specifically requested to be in the bill.
I'll have to look into that again.
Yeah, I can provide you the links from the White House that I pulled from that, because I had to. I'm the kind of person that cites everything, and I always love to be proven wrong if not. But I want to make sure.
No, you're fine, and I agree with that. I like that, but you definitely send that to me. I have detached myself from politics at this point. So I just have been coming onto this podcast as a promise to Pierce, and I wanted to do it actually to show my side of the aisle, that not every Republican is a terrible human being.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because, like, if we just took a snippet of this and you were talking about, government option healthcare from earlier, had people no context, they would assume you're a liberal.
Absolutely.
You can see that. And they would be taken aback when they say, oh, this person's a Trump supporting conservative. How is that possible? Well, it actually is possible when you sit down and have a conversation with people instead of bashing them automatically.
Yep. Exactly, I know, right? And that's
like, it's not a black or white thing. There could be things we agree on. Shocking.
I know, right, John Marco? We've sat here for 2 hours right now, and neither of us have wanted to throw a chair at our webcam or wanted to go through the internet and strangle the other person. And I commend us for that. I have to repeat myself so many times because conversations like this don't exist anymore.
Oh yeah, man. You would have had a blast with me and Pierce in Iowa.
At this point, I mean, maybe another time. Maybe another time when maybe if Andrew Yang comes up here for running for New York City, maybe he starts to preach to all of New York, because I don't know if like everybody in New York State can actually vote for that. I haven't delved into that too much, but anyhow, I would like to meet the guy. I've actually watched his policies before, and there are some things that I can agree with him on. But yeah, going back to that, I think mainly it was just that he wanted this COVID spending bill, not all of it wrapped in one. Maybe he didn't quite realize that, or maybe he just talked out of turn. But I don't think he intentionally tried to mislead the public, but it could have come off as misleading, like you were saying, correct?
It's more so that the reaction from everyone shows that they were misunderstanding what was happening, because it seems everyone thought that stuff in this COVID relief bill, like I frequently go to the conservative subreddit just to see other viewpoints, obvious more than anything, but it is astounding the amount of people that, I mean, I'm basing it based on my research, so I'm confident when I try to point this out to people on the conservative side. Is like, listen, people are like, why do we have so much money for foreign aid? Like, America should come first. Like, I get that, But you do realize if you go to the White House website, Trump's White House specifically requested that to be in the budget.
Okay. I mean, that was the government spending budget, correct? That's not in the COVID relief bill.
Exactly. So it's the government budget combined. So that's why I was going back to the whole key wording in the phrase was this bill that comes to my desk. That bill technically is one combined bill right now.
Yes.
It has the COVID relief and the regular government spending.
I wish that didn't happen that way, but it did. And I think maybe it did come off as misleading when he said those things. So I will agree with you. It did perceive that way, but it wasn't intentional. But Pierce, is there anything you want to talk about?
So, I mean, there's a few. I don't know how much longer you want to say. We've already been 2 hours, and usually we're already done by this point.
Well, I'm an old man, and I'll stay till 9:30 at the latest. After that, I gotta go take my melatonin and pass the hell out because I have terror.
Okay.
I can't fall asleep for shit.
All right. Well, I will address very quickly as a drive-by the why I hope to die at 75. So I did a pretty decent job skimming the entire article to see what would cause people to be afraid of it. And I think it was likely more overblown. The man is basically just saying that your quality of life declines after 75 for health reasons as a rule.
Obviously.
And he's just saying, like, I'd rather end on a fairly high note at 75. And he's encouraging others to do the same.
Right, but that's the thing, Pierce. You can't speak for other people. That's what he's doing.
I don't think he's speaking for other people.
Well, what you just said is that everybody should just think this way of like, let nature take its course at 75. When you reach the dude, let's face it. None of us in this call right now, I don't know of your life situations into a complete detail. Pierce, I haven't even delved with you on that, but I don't think anybody in this room in here right now has been so close to death that they could actually see themselves dying today. Like there was a horror, like you're not trapped in a burning building. You could die. You're not in a medical, you're not in a hospital with a medical condition that could, potentially ultimately lead to your death with not a 1% chance, like a severely high chance. None of us have been close to that. Actually, you, Pierce, you were dead on birth, correct?
Right, but I don't remember that.
Right.
I've had a couple close accidents that nearly killed me. But I'm not counting that. Like one of them, I nearly fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Like I actually fell. so
okay, so you have had near-death experiences, is what I'm trying to say. Do you actually want to die? Like, would you have been ready for that to happen?
No, I didn't even think about dying. The whole life flashing before your eyes thing. When I was falling off the cliff, that didn't occur to me. It was 100% instinct. There was no thought in the slightest of I'm about to die or what should I do. My entire body was instinct grab onto something, and unfortunately, I was able to grab onto a dead friggin' branch of bushes.
God bless for you for that. You've had a lot of close calls in your life, but now tell that to somebody who's 74 years old that, hey, on your 75th birthday, we're not going to give you medical care. You're not going to get any of your medicine. Nature's going to take its course. How are you going to tell that to somebody and then they're going to be able to accept it? That's the shit I don't agree with in this article. You are not better off dead at 75. You are better off with how your life is going. If you need medicine to stay alive or help you with medical conditions, you should be able to get that. You should live the longest and happiest life that you can. Not just say, all right, I'm done, 75, fuck it. Pull the plug, Johnny. Get me out of here. Send me off to the other side. No. Nobody wants to.
The natural instinct is for self-preservation. Me, myself, I plan to live to 100, right?
Yeah, I want to live as long as I can. The only thing in this world that is guaranteed is death. You just don't know when it comes. But don't accept it earlier than it should happen. You should live your life. Enjoy what you have. Nobody wants to go at any age. But there will come a time in people's lives that you pass. Your time is coming. Like when my grandmother had terminal lung cancer, her time was coming. We didn't know when it was. I bet she knew it, but she was so weak that she couldn't talk that much. She was asleep. She knew it was happening. Probably it was running through her mind, but but she just wanted to hold on as long as she could. Nobody wants to die. And that's why when I look at this article, I'm like, this person is mentally fucking insane to say that you're better off dead at 75 because you're speaking for other people.
Well, I don't, how do I put this? He's saying he himself would prefer to die at 75 because he's seen what happens to the human body after 75, and he thinks, you know what, enough's enough. I'm good. I don't want to be a burden onto other people's. I don't want to experience dementia.
And that's your choice.
Right.
You should
Right.
not
That's what he's
force
saying.
that choice on other people.
A quote from the article provided by Quincy here. I am not advocating 75 as the official statistic of a complete good life in order to save resources or ration healthcare.
Right.
So, just for what that's worth. Now, of course, if he harbors that opinion, I don't think there's any possible way that that's going to not influence his policy aspirations or proposals or whatever. Like, of course, he's of that mindset or whatever, but I wouldn't say that it disqualifies him. That's all I
just find that kind of a viewpoint scary. I really do.
Yeah, it's against our natural instinct of self-preservation. So of course you do.
Especially when we're looking at a potential of a government-run program of healthcare that completely removes the private health insurance. Because what if, guys, just think about it. We could sit here with our tinfoil hats on if we want for like 5 minutes. I'm okay with that. I'll go get mine right now. Tinfoil hat. All right. If the government controls the population and its basic needs and wants, they can make you do anything. And let's say this.
1984, right?
Let's say the government has our health care right now. There's no private health insurance, and there's only the government-run program. You're 75 years old, and you need a hip replacement. Does the government want to pay for that? Are you going to provide anything more? Are you on Social Security? Yes. Can you work? No. Will you be able to work even after the surgery? No. So you'll be taking money from the government. Okay. Are you worth it? Are you worth it for the government to do that? Now, I'm not saying that is the thing that's going to happen, but when you give a government power over you, that is a totalitarian thing that could potentially occur, especially when you have individuals in political power right now that are informing President Joe Biden of coronavirus that write articles like this. So it's not like I'm pulling this idea out of my ass.
Right.
This idea exists in people's minds. And imagine if that gets applied to the world. Yeah,
it's a classic possible or threat, I guess, if you will. It's a classic looming threat from Soylent Green, right? Amongst a few other sci-fi tropes. So one thing I super wanted to say earlier, I let John Marco speak first, and the moment passed, I never got back to it. There's a difference between health care and health insurance, fundamentally. So me, having been a United States military service member, I have experienced what government health care looks like. And I can say, as a whole, not a fan. All right. Sorry for everybody that thinks military troops get great healthcare. At least it's there and it's free, right? That's good.
It's good for government work.
Yeah. Quality, maybe not the best. And they absolutely try to discourage any sort of treatment that you might need, because you are a cost. Whatever it is that you need is just additional cost, right? So any of that is discouraged. So I do not advocate a national government-run national health care system. I don't think that's a good idea. I would like private hospitals to continue. I'd like private hospitals to be able to compete with each other. Right now, though, they're not really competing with each other. The whole competition idea, like a free market, doesn't exist in healthcare. At what point do you ever go, hey, how much is this knee surgery going to cost me? Like upfront, just what's the bill? Tell me the exact bill I'm going to pay, room, board fees or whatever, like the Dixie cups included. Just what is the bill in advance? Tell me what it's going to cost.
Exactly.
And then you don't get to go, right, yeah, because you won't get that answer. They literally won't give it to you.
May I interject for 1 second? That what you are saying right now goes back to what I was saying earlier about the hospitals are what's really charging the cost of healthcare. It's not the insurance companies. It's what they have to pay these healthcare providers?
Yes and no. So there's a
Well-
bunch of reasons why hospital health prices have gone up. And a huge one is administrative bloat. And administrative bloat could be decreased if there were perhaps a lot less stupid rules. All right. But one of the easier, like, national sweeping policies that we could do, though, to get health price down, as in the price that you pay for healthcare, would be to create a national health insurance option. So I don't want national health care, but national health insurance, on the other hand. If you eliminate the profit motive of health insurance, then you are able to effectively shrink the apparatus that is needed for that health insurance system to function. And the health insurance system, by the way, in the United States is $1 trillion. That is $1 trillion every year that is spent that does not contribute any extra value. All right? Because the health insurance is not providing care. The health insurance is just helping connect you get access to care. But it didn't actually do anything. It did not create a result. You know, it just connected a dot. Like, it creates a line, right? But if you didn't need the line in the first place, or if the line was free, which I'm not saying national health insurance would be free. I don't want it to be free. But, you know, that is $1 trillion as potential savings. And $1 trillion per each and every American is about $3,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So that thing alone seems kind of cool. And considering that we don't have, you know, competition in the marketplace for hospitals right now, then this seems like an upgrade to it. It also actually kind of makes you maybe get competition in the marketplace for hospitals, because if your insurance company, Medicare in this case, is, you know, footing the primary part of the bill after the copay, then what are hospitals going to compete on? This is not a rhetorical question. If everybody has the same insurance provider and you're able to choose your hospital, but you're paying the same thing at any one of them, what are they going to compete on?
You're saying that they're going to pay the same amount, that insurance company is going to pay that one amount?
Yeah, but I'm asking you.
I have like a response to your statement with a better question.
Answer the question though? All right.
Okay.
If you are paying the same amount at hospital A or hospital B, what do the hospitals compete on? Because you can choose which hospital.
Absolutely nothing, because they're getting, no matter what, they're getting paid the same amount. Is that
wrong?
Is that
they compete on service.
Service. Oh, well, yes, understandably, yes, the service. I thought we were talking, of course, of the money aspect, but no, I did not think that. Okay, but go on.
So what happens then is hospitals are competing with each other on service, because right now they kind of don't. Right now they're like, oh, well, are we in your insurance network? Yes or no, right? The hospitals aren't even competing with each other, let alone the fact that you're not even seeing their prices. Like, they're literally you might not even have multiple choices, even if you did have multiple hospitals in your area, right? So hospitals don't compete with each other in a free marketplace or anything close to it right now. And a national health insurance program would actually help increase competition in the healthcare market.
I agree. Maybe implementing, and now you're saying put that plan into motion with other free market choices?
Initially, yeah, absolutely. I would not say like eliminate private insurance in the first place. I think that the idea is basically to create a public program that is better than the other programs. And because if you don't need profit off it, you should be able to charge a lower value. And therefore, effectively, most of the private insurance plans are going to die out. And that's fine because they've been supplanted by something better.
Right, but then that's going to lead to the one policy control. But we can go into that another time. But actually, never mind. We could probably go into it now. I'm just looking at the clock.
The marker of a fantastic conversation.
What's up?
That time has just flown over these past few hours.
I know, man. And I'm like looking down at like it's like slowly getting to like 9:30, and my old man sense in me is like, oh boy, why aren't you in bed now?
and I hate you. Yeah, no, I hate to push that particular topic, but for me, one of the reasons we started moving our podcast up is because I am trying to go to sleep earlier. Like,
what time do you want to go to bed?
I try to be winding down by like 9:30, 10 o'clock, so I can move by 5 o'clock.
Same with me, man.
But I personally myself have to call it here. Zach, this has been an absolutely fantastic conversation. I'm very grateful we can have these conversations more than anything.
Definitely.
And I'd be more than happy to have you back on and talk more, because I'm sure there is all of everything I'd like to poke your brain about, and maybe you poke my brain, and we can just come to new ideas together.
Absolutely. In the future, yes. I don't know how many times though, because like I was telling Pierce today, I do kind of want to detach myself from politics because
Mhm.
it
And the good
has.
thing about this is that we don't have to talk about politics. It just seemed very, I guess, topical at this
Oh,
point.
just like anything? Oh, yeah, sure. Why not?
Like
it
last
can
week,
be.
last
I
week
want to
we
say
streamed. Last week we
90% of the
streamed Pierce playing a video game.
that's
Oh,
true.
hell yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
stream Call of Duty while I'm talking to you guys. I don't care.
Yeah.
But no, it's like one thing.
80% I want to say has been politics, but it is not only politics.
Yeah, I just don't want to talk too much about politics anymore because, like I was telling Pierce earlier today, it has made me a bit more of a toxic human being in a sense. Because, I mean, there's one thing I wanted to say that I was hinting to earlier, and this is what I think the country is going towards, and it's a sad reality. I think eventually the Democratic Party is going to assume total control of this country. And I'll explain how. There's a movie that came out a long time ago called Gaslight. Do you two know about it?
Gaslight?
Gaslighting.
Okay.
Gaslighting.
I have not heard of the movie. I know the term.
So the basic premise of the movie was actually, it might not be called Gaslight. Let me look it up right now and see what that movie is. But movie. Let me make sure if I'm quoting it correctly. Yeah, Gaslight, 1944. It's the film. So I just wanted to make sure because it's actually a term and stuff. So this man wanted to kill his wife, but didn't want to do it. So how he did it was he drove her insane by dimming the light in the house. And every day she would come in and say, "Why is it so dark in here?" And he was like, "No, it's not. It's not dark in here. Gaslight." He kept doing that until she started to actually question herself. It's just like, is she crazy for thinking that it's dim when it's not? When the person that she's loved and trusted her whole life is not lying to her and saying that it's not dim, but she thinks it's dim. She went crazy and killed herself. And I think that's what the Democratic Party is going to do to America, because they keep calling this country irredeemably racist when it's not about race, people. Like, let's put this off the side. There are individuals of color on both sides of the aisle. You know, Chief Justice John Roberts was the first black Republican to serve, or the first black individual to serve on the Supreme Court. Tim Scott is the elected official. He was the first black official on the Republican side to be voted for both a House and a Senate seat. This isn't about race. This is about power. And the Democratic Party has been using whatever narrative is most socially accepted in this time. That's why I think social media is the most toxic thing in the world, because all it is what's the biggest hashtag right now? Let's go with it.
Every episode.
What's the biggest hashtag?
So you don't know this? This happens every episode. Literally every single episode.
What I'm saying right now?
Yeah. Social media is a problem, happens every single episode.
Okay. I thought like what I'm about to say entirely. But yeah, like literally, like I'm not kidding. Every single politician on the left right now, they will say we need to address the gender and racial biases in XX policy. And you have people going absolutely nuts, like, yeah, oh, I'm with this person, yeah, because they're just tapping in to whatever the biggest hashtag is, and they're calling the Republicans racist, bigots, and sexist, and homophobes. Listen, I don't know where the Democrats are getting this whole thing, like, oh, the party line switched. I didn't get a memo in the mail that said the Democrats are now Republicans and the Republicans are now Democrats, and the party line switched, making the Democrats the Republicans and they're evil, and the former Republicans, Democrats, the good guys. I don't remember that ever happening, because the Civil War ended, and what was it? Robert E. Lee was the first registered Democrat, and Abraham Lincoln was the first registered Republican. So I don't want to talk about that, but I'm just saying, like, party lines didn't switch. I don't know where this came from. Robert Burr in 2000 was the Senate Majority Leader for the Democratic Party in the Senate of Congress, and he was a known Klansman. And both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden looked up to this man as an idol. So if we want to think about the party line switched, why is there a known Klansman on the Democratic side? But anyway.
This is without a doubt a interesting topic with, I'm sure, multiple things to know about it and sides to tell.
We can talk about that another time.
Right. I think that this has been a great episode. We've been honored and happy to have you as our guest, Zach.
Yes.
We enjoy having you back again. John Marco's nodding along enthusiastically. So
I told Pierce, like, I'm the kind of guy that like will go out of my way to like buy a Trump supporter a drink and have a conversation with them.
I want to talk to people. I'm not shunning people from the other side of the aisle. I have been this way my whole life with politics, and Pierce, you've known that about me for longer than I believe Joe. I mean, I believe we met when former President Obama was in office, if I'm not mistaken, right? At F&M? I think that was our first interaction between each other.
No, Donald Trump. So 2017.
Oh, it was 17. I thought it was 16. I apologize.
Yeah.
But before he won. But still, either way, I don't hate anybody on the other side of the aisle. And I'll pretty much sum up what I was trying to get to with my last statement. They keep calling the right racist and all these names, and it's a psychological thing. Like, think about it like this. If you were to go to the store one day and somebody out of the blue randomly said, "You're crazy. You're stupid. What is wrong with you?" You would look at this person like, "Who the fuck this guy who just said that to me? I don't know. You get out of my face. You're weird. Leave me alone." What if 2 people told you that, and 3 people told you that, and 4 people told you that, and 5 people told you that? And then it happened every single day. It's like gaslight. You keep hearing the same thing. Your brain's going to start subconsciously thinking like, what, I'm not this, what's going on? And eventually one day you're going to fucking snap at the other side and say some nasty shit. And that's what they're doing. They're playing psychological warfare right now when they keep calling you names, because eventually people are going to fucking snap hearing it too much. Like, that's why I want to get away from politics.
I think that's largely what we saw at the Capitol.
Yeah, and that was people snapping. They're like, we've had it. We're not dealing with this anymore. I mean, granted, what they did was wrong, but I agree with it in the sense of, like, they're going to be called evil. Why are we not calling the other riots that occurred over the summer, like what I said before, evil? Like, but I don't want to.
Well, the good news is that there's plenty more to say on the topic. So
exactly.
Thank you for joining us. John Marco, always a pleasure. Sue, Quincy, everyone else watching, thank you for joining us as well. Everyone have a safe